Call the meeting to order, and the first order of business will be to seat new and re-elected board members. So welcome to the board, Angie and Kristen, and welcome to returning Dave. And Mary Kay, you're going to do an oath for them all. So you want them to join you out there?
Raise your right hand. I'll read the oath, and then when I'm finished, please answer I will. Having been elected to the Board of Education of the Unified School District of Antigo, I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
I will.
I will. Go ahead, ladies.
Okay, then we'll go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and roll call.
Dr. Dave Bardo,
Here.
Trina Borneman,
Here.
Dr. Noel Deep, Jill Maddock Nelson,
Here.
Kristen Matt Miller,
Here.
Andy Mary,
Here.
Danny Pyatt,
Here.
Angie Schreiber,
Here.
JD Schrader.
Here. And then we'll go on to the consent agenda. If somebody'd like to make a motion.
I move the board approve the agenda minutes from March 22nd, 2022 Board of Education meeting, minutes from the April 7th, 2022 Board of Canvas meeting, financial reports for March 2022, consideration of current bills, checks number 5714 through 5789 in the amount of $114,982.19, ACH numbers ACH numbers 212200871 through 202200984 in the amount of $875,885.21, and the one wire transfer in the amount of $11,997.78 for a total of $1,002,865.18.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Then we'll go ahead and do a roll call.
Bardo,
I'll be abstaining on check number 5756, and for the rest, yes.
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddock Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
I will be abstaining as I was not a member of a board at that time.
Mary,
Yes.
Pyatt,
Yes.
Schreiber,
I'll be abstaining because I wasn't a member of the board at the time.
Schrader.
Yes. Okay, we will go on to reorganization of the board, and we'll start with nomination and election of a clerk pro temp.
I nominate Mary Kay as Clerk Pro Tem of the Unified School District of Antigo Board of Education.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Would somebody like to move to cast a unanimous ballot?
So move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll go on to item D, nomination and election of a chair pro tem.
I nominate Dr. Julie Sprague to Chair Pro Tem for the Unified School District of Antigo Board of Education.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Would somebody like to move for unanimous ballot?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are looking for a nomination as board president. Would anyone like to make a nomination?
I nominate Danny Pyatt.
Are there any other nominations for board president?
I want to nominate Dave Bardo.
Any other nominations for board president?
I want to nominate Andy Mary.
Any other nominations for board president? Okay, so we have three.
I'll decline. So we have two.
Okay. So we have two candidates, Danny Pyatt and Andy Mary for president. Mary Kay will bring the ballot.
We have to sign these two, correct, Mary Kay?
It is secret ballot for this one, so it is not necessary to sign it.
Okay.
Unless you choose to have it open up.
You have an obstacle course. to
I
go through.
do. The vote is 5-3 for Danny Pyatt as board president.
Okay, congratulations, Danny.
Thank you.
I'd just like to take a minute here to say thank you to the board. I'd also like to say thank you to administration and staff, all the teachers, all the support staff. I know the last couple of years have been difficult with COVID and everything, and I, as board president, really appreciate all the work everybody has done. And I look forward to the work that everybody's going to do to keep improving our district.
Would also like to say thank you on behalf of the board to you, Andy, for your service and time as president. 4 years? 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. 3 years, so thank you for serving, and you're not going anywhere, you're just...
I'm going to let you
Switch
have this
seats.
chair because you need to get used to sitting next to Julie.
But thank you. Let's give Andy a hand today.
French fries your first board visit.
Oh, I get to share. I know, right?
Just want to make sure people know who you are.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we will open up the floor for nominations of board clerk.
I'll nominate Kristen Matt Miller for board clerk.
Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Dave Bardo.
I'll decline.
Any other nominations for board clerk? And a third and final time, any other nominations for board clerk? Okay, since we only have one nominee, can we just vote by consensus? All in favor of accepting Kristen as the board clerk, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Kristen. We'll do some switcherooing here for seats. Okay, now we'll open up nominations for election of board vice president. Any nominations?
I nominate Dr. Dave Bardo for Vice President of the Unified School District of Antigo Board of Education.
Any other nominations?
I'll nominate J.D. Schrader.
I'll decline.
And third and final, any nominations for board vice president? Okay, Dave, since you are the only candidate, all in favor of accepting Dave as the vice president of the Unified School District of Antigo vice president, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And then it's carried. Now I can't share any food with her.
Sorry, Danny, you missed your chance.
Missed it. Okay, nominations are open for the election of the board treasurer for the school board.
I'll nominate Jill Namack.
Nominations open for board treasurer. Third and final time, nominations open for board treasurer. Okay, nominations closed. All in favor of accepting Jill as the board treasurer for the Unified School District of Antigo, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And it's carried. Okay, open nominations for election of the board secretary.
I'll nominate Mary Kay.
Thank you. Nominations for board secretary. Nominations for board secretary. Nominations are closed. All in favor of accepting Mary Kay as the board secretary, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? And it's carried. Thank you. Okay, letter H is the appointment and the delegate of the alternate, appointment of the delegate and the alternate delegate to the WASB Delegate Assembly that happens in January in Milwaukee. This is an appointment by the president, right? Yes.
Appointment, yes.
Okay. Kristen Miller, I'd like for you to serve as the delegate and Jill as the alternate, if that's, if you agree.
Do you want to go to Madison or do you want to make Danny do it?
I'm pending my PTO approval right now, so as long as that goes through, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this can be changed later as it was this year. Okay? All right. And moving on to item I, the appointment of the representative for Joint Review Board for Tax Increment Finance Districts. This is the TIF board with the City of Antigo. I've been doing that for a lot of years. I don't want to do it anymore.
Nominate Trina?
Huh?
Nominate Trina? Or is
Well,
it
that's an
appointment?
appointment,
Oh.
so I'm gonna appoint Angie Schreiber
Okay.
for that. If Angie will accept that.
I do, yep.
What do you actually do at that meeting? Is it long? Or
It's,
is it
it's one meeting a year that we have with, who's the clerk? Kay Matiszewski. Sorry, Kay, for forgetting your name. And we meet and talk about all of the various tax entities that touch our taxes on a yearly basis, such as NTC, the school district, us. Then there are other entities that are there as well. And we just go over all the tax increment information. Then I generally bring all that information back and give it to Tim, and he takes it and does what he wants to with it.
Sure.
Okay? Are we missing the CC Board of Patrols? Because normally it's right here.
We are actually not, because Andy is in a 3-year term there. So because his term has not expired, it's not up for appointment or re-election.
When did you start your 3-year term?
When did I start my 3-year?
I think you're in year 2.
In August,
In August of last year?
so I got 2.5
You
years
got
left.
2.5 years
so
left?
first year.
Okay. I just know we've always seen it on the agenda at this point every year, and I didn't know why that it was not there. Okay. so-
Danny, I know that I've said this at a previous meeting, but Mr. Mary is currently the chairman of that CISA committee, which is one representative from all the other schools in CISA 9, and it's a big deal because they vote as a group as to who will be that president. So again, I will congratulate Andy for having that chairmanship.
So let's give Andy a hand for being the chairman of the CISA 9 Board of Controls.
Thank you.
Does that chairmanship go for the whole 3-year term, or is it just year by year?
It's year by year, just like this.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, letter J, consideration of designation of official publication. I'm looking for a motion.
I move the board designate the Antigo Daily Journal as the official publication of the Unified School District of Antigo.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded that the Daily Journal becomes the official publication of the Unified School District of Antigo. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Then it's carried. Letter K, consideration of designation of official depositories. I'm looking for a motion.
I move the board adopt the following: Banner Banks, BMO Harris Bank, Covantage Credit Union, Associated Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, Mid-American Administrative and Retirement Solutions, Inc., PMA Financial Network, Inc., Wisconsin Investment Series Cooperative, and Wisconsin Local Governments Investments Pool as the official depositories of the Unified School District of Antigo.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor and seconded to accept the 8 financial institutions as the depositories for our school district. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Then it's carried. Item letter L, consideration of designating a day, place, and time for regular meetings.
I move the board approve the 3rd Monday of each month, 7:00 p.m. at the Media Center in the high school as the day and place and time for regular meetings, and the first Monday for the Cal meeting. However, due to the fact we will start that on July 1, And we will only have one meeting in July, which will be the third Monday. Between now, the last 2 months of this school year, we will continue to be the CAL on the second meeting and the regular meeting on the fourth Monday. And that should give Tim 2 months to let our vendors know that bills will need to be received a week earlier.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Can I clarify something?
Please.
How will they continue through June? As they are now? Second, fourth Tuesdays, or?
Yes.
That's your motion.
I think you
Yeah.
misspoke, Dave. You said the fourth Monday, that we would continue with the fourth Monday. That's what you asked.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't write this down. I apologize. We want to move it for this remaining 2 months, May and June. We'll go on the fourth Tuesday and the second Tuesday of the month. Starting July 1st, we will go to the third Monday, and going forward in August, we will go third Monday and CAL on first Monday. Sorry for the misrepresentation of my intent.
Why do you like the third Monday, not the fourth?
The current board president wants to make it so that people in the community can hit the county meeting, which is fourth Monday. So that people who want to go to the county meeting, because there are people who would like to go to both, and we want to ensure that as many people who want to come to our meetings, it's available for them. And the reason, for example, to go to the media center is people will be up in front of us, we'll all be 7 across. I've already talked to Mr. Rogers, we're going to be able to move that L-shaped table more to the right to free up more room. People will be able to hear, and all the people like here, if we have something up here, they can't see it, but at that venue, they'll have it behind us, and they will be able to see what's on the board. And I believe, from what I understand, that's where it used to be held.
Dustin, will we be able to have a live stream from there then too?
I just want to clarify, Dave, you gave the day of Monday, did you answer and you gave the place, did you answer the time?
7 o'clock.
Okay.
Is the committee of the whole or whatever committees, are they also going to be there? Was that?
That wasn't in this motion, but yes. Everything will be at the high school.
I thought that was in your motion, Dave.
What, 7 o'clock?
Committee of the whole.
Yeah.
But not the location.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So county board meetings, I always thought they were during the day, but I guess I don't pay very much attention to that.
5:30.
I think they've recently moved them to 5:30 because of the attendance that was lacking in the daytime.
Yeah, it's hard to go.
I know they're meeting right now as we're meeting here too.
Why Monday night and not Tuesday?
Well, as I stated many times during the last couple of months, girls' volleyball games are on Tuesday nights in the fall. Basketball games, boys and girls, Tuesday nights during the winter. And our goal is to allow parents who want to come and parents of athletes to come on a Monday, and the 7 o'clock time is the same time that they're used to going to ball games. So we're just trying to make it good for the parents to be able to come to our meetings if they so desire.
We used to be at 7, right?
Did anyone check the Vaughan Theater schedule? If not, I'll make sure we do that with Beth,
I
or,
didn't check those Mondays.
okay.
But we're having at the media center, not in the ballroom.
Oh, media center, I apologize.
That's all right.
Okay,
Better than.
There was a lot of verbiage there, and some of
Okay.
it wasn't
I even
correct,
wrote down
because I didn't
media,
write it
okay.
down.
Okay, so meetings stay as is through June, correct?
Yes.
But
Yes.
But at
so
seven.
location changes.
No.
No,
So
it's still gonna be here.
second, fourth Tuesday at 6
For
p.m.
the next 2 months, because that gives Tim time to deal with the vendors.
And then starting July, when we only have one meeting, would be the Board of Ed meeting the third Monday of July, 7 p.m., high school, media tech. And then moving forward, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., media tech.
Correct.
Okay,
And media tech starts May 10th.
oh,
Oh,
Or media tech, we want to go to media tech right away.
okay, I didn't
Let's-
understand that, I thought
can we check availability?
we'll
Yeah, we
have
probably
to.
should check availability, make sure that room's available.
Is it? It's a thumbs up from the principal.
I'll make sure it is. I don't see any conflicts with it.
Clint, while we're asking you questions, is it possible, I know whenever we met there, when JD and I first came on the board, sometimes people would wander around the building trying to find the media tech room. Is it possible we can have signage up for meetings and then the elevator in operation for those handicapped individuals?
Yep.
Okay, that'd be great.
Usually when we had the meeting there, no one came. But the part that I liked here about here better was that you could look at each other. And at that meeting, we were looking so out that it was not like we were talking to each other at all. So you think you could, how much do you think you can angle the tables, Clint? If you could make them go like this instead, it'd be way better.
We won't have that much room in front. It's gonna be more of a gradual.
Slant. It's just weird to talk to each other and not look at each other. It's like a,
Yeah, so you were in a straight line?
yeah,
When you're-
pretty much. We had like a slight angle and you could barely move your chair.
But did I understand, Dave, correct to say that that desk that is sitting there, that can be moved? It's not stationary, it's not permanent?
Correct,
So
it's not bolted down.
Okay.
There is a power wire coming through there, but we'll figure that out.
Okay.
I'm sort of happy you didn't do the ball. I don't like the lights are so bright, you can't see each other, and I don't know how they do a musical or something when they can't see. It's really weird.
It's probably by design, so they can't see the audience.
Oh,
Okay, any other discussion about the designating the day, place, time for regular meetings?
So, to make sure I understand, and perhaps you do already, Mary Kate, Media Tech is starting right away, next meeting.
Yes.
The time change as well?
No, we're going,
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
didn't I say 7?
Just the location is changing until
Okay.
until July?
Till July. 6 o'clock till July, and then
Okay. 6.
when we switch to the Monday, it goes to 7.
Do you have a second?
I'm sorry,
I said-
You did second?
Mary Kay, can you let us know what we're voting on, please?
not very easily.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Bardo moved to approve third Mondays at 7 p.m. at the high school media tech room, and first Mondays for the committee of the whole for the media tech room beginning July 1st. And we'll follow the same schedule of second and fourth Tuesdays through the end of June. The location will change to the media tech room, and the time will stay the same at 6 p.m.
The only thing is July 4th is a Monday, and we're not having a cow in July. We're just having,
We just have one
Right,
meeting
yeah.
normally in
Yeah,
July.
I just want to point out that Labor Day is the first Monday of September also, correct?
okay.
So we'll meet on Labor Day,
No,
or we'll adjust the meeting?
Yeah, we can adjust.
anybody else have a problem with Mondays?
I do. I can see if I can figure it out. The third Monday is the one Monday a month that is hard for me with my job, because that's my school board meeting, but I can see if I can figure it out.
And what was the problem with having it on the third Tuesday? Basketball games, I guess, okay. I thought the county board is Monday, Tuesdays.
Could we go 2 and 4?
Well, I think
Two
we're
and
trying
four.
to stay away from the
I'm
county
gonna
board
change my
meeting.
motion and make it 2 and
We're-
4 because of Mrs. Borneman's situation.
Okay, we were trying to.
You'll have to amend that
Second,
motion
fourth.
because the motion is already
Second,
on the floor.
All the way through.
Dr. Bardo, you'll have to amend that motion because the motion belongs to the floor right now.
Okay.
So you have to amend that, I'm sorry.
I will amend my original motion to have all meetings, regular meetings on the fourth Monday and Cal meetings on the second Monday. However, in July,
I suppose that frees up a Cal meeting. So
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
We usually don't
Typically,
one,
we
but
have
Just one.
just the board meeting on the third
I will,
Tuesday or third Monday of the month, typically in July.
I will second that amendment, and thank you for making that compromise.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for letting us know that.
No,
Trina.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we are voting on the amendment, or actually discussing the amendment to the motion, which is moving the meetings to the second and fourth Mondays, beginning in July, to the Media Tech Room in the high school. We know what we're voting on?
The amendment.
The amendment, okay?
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Okay, so we passed the amendment. Now we're going to go back to the motion, which is the amended motion. Is there any other discussion on this?
Amended motion, okay. Can you repeat the amended motion? Now I'm confused.
Okay.
Not confused, I want to make sure I'm understanding it all.
We're going to continue with the meetings the way that they are through the end of June, with moving them to the Media Tech Room, same time, 6 p.m., at the Media Tech Room. The month of July, the meetings will go to the second and fourth Mondays at 7 p.m. in the Media Tech Room, with having one meeting in July.
Thank you.
Correct? Mary Kay?
Okay.
Everybody have it? Okay, we will vote now.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Borneman,
Yes.
and Hyatt.
Yes.
Are you thinking about switching to the committee structure, or not really? Or is that somewhere else on this agenda?
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on this.
Okay, I didn't know if that counted as reasonably related to this question, because it's the number of meetings per month.
Not at this time.
Not planning on switching at this time, or not reasonably related?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so that's why we're not going to talk about that. Item M, approval of authorization of electronic signatures. Looking for a motion.
I move the board authorize the use of the board officers' facility and/or electronic signatures as allowed by law and not prohibited by rules and regulations of the respective agency or organization.
Second.
Motion on the floor and seconded. Any discussion?
Can I amend the motion, or do we discuss first?
You can amend the motion.
Okay, can I amend the motion to say, to add at the end, with 2 days written notice and approval?
So before the period, go ahead.
I
Denise.
move the board authorize the use of board officers' fax and electronic signatures signatures as allowed by law and not prohibited by rules and regulations of the respective agency or organization with 2-day written notice and approval.
Second.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor and it's been seconded. Now we can have discussion. Kristen, you can speak to the reason for the amendment if you like.
So since I'm the clerk, I would like to be notified when my signature is going to be used, just ahead of time so that I have a heads up.
Oh, so it's approval from you, not from the board?
Correct, yes, the individual whose signature is being used.
That makes sense.
How often does that happen, Tim? Or is it?
It happens every week. It happens with bingo, it happens with ACHs, it happens with,
Okay.
yeah.
And throughout the election too.
So are you saying you want whatever is being signed to be sent in the form of an email?
Not necessarily the entire thing, but what it is. So if I am signing off on something for the election, if I could just get a snippet of what it is that it's being signed. And if I have further questions, I can clarify it before it's.
There'll be multiple times throughout the year where we'll have you come in and sign things too, and have your actual signature. But there are a lot of times throughout the year that we do use electronic signature.
That makes sense. So you're just asking to be notified, so you're aware of when your electronic signature is being utilized.
Right.
And
How, is there any flexibility with that 2 days? I'm just thinking about the ACHs and all, Tim. Does 2 days sound like it's doable from the business office?
Yeah, once we get into the team.
Okay. Okay.
This week will be a little tight because we've got payroll this week and then associated documents that would go out later with payroll.
Because the communication, very reasonable. I just wanted to check on that 2 days for you.
So you're gonna respond to all those emails and say, yes, that's okay? Or you just wanna get the notification?
Get the notification.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion on the amendment to add the verbiage that Kristen added to the motion?
So there's no, from administration, there's no expectation that they have to wait for an okay from whoever they sent the email to.
Not according to the motion. Did I understand that right? Just that you're notified?
Just that I know
Yep.
that,
No expectation to receive, yes, it's okay.
Can you read the amendment back to us, please?
Her amendment was
it's slightly difficult over here to hear some of us speaking, so I don't know if that's a mic issue, if the mic just needs to be moved closer, but I just noticed that a few different times, and I'm guessing maybe people in the back are having a hard time hearing, so I'm gonna offer that. I don't know, Dustin, it's a mic issue, or if we just need to move it closer. But before you read the amended motion.
You gotta be about 1 centimeter away. Just like pretend you're eating it, it's really weird.
The amended motion is to authorize the use of board officers' facsimile and/or electronic signatures as allowed by law and not prohibited by rules and regulations of the respective agency or organization, and adding with a 2-day written notice and approval of the individual.
Okay, so that amendment does have the approval of the individual. Thank you, Andy, for catching that too.
I guess I'm just concerned that,
If you're not
Tim will have
available.
all this stuff sent out and maybe the treasurer's on vacation or something's up and, so are we gonna hold all those things or is he supposed to go ahead with them?
We can take out the "and" approval. So it's just
Then
notification.
you can amend your
Amend
amendment.
my amendment.
Yes, you can. You can amend the amendment.
But it's the
Okay.
last time you only get to amend twice.
Well, okay. Well, then I will amend my amendment to say with a 2-day written notice of the individual. With a 2-day written notice to the individual whose signature is being used.
Yep, that makes sense. So I have amendment to the
Second.
amendment, and we have a second.
Yeah.
So now we're speaking, Jill. Now we're speaking on the motion, the amendment to the amendment of adding the verbiage.
With a 2-day written notice of the individual.
So you really didn't add verbiage, you cut some
Cut it
off.
out,
Yes.
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 So it should really be that you want to,
The removal and approval.
Yes.
correct.
Thank you.
We're removing the approval part,
Just the notice.
just the notice. Does everybody understand? Any other questions about the amendment to the amendment? Okay, then we'll vote. Mary Kay?
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Medic Nelson,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Okay, now we will vote on the amended amendment. Mary Kay, are we ready?
Hold on, so this is the real vote?
This is, no, this
No.
is it. This is the amendment part yet.
This is the amendment minus what we just did.
Right.
There's going to be 2 more votes.
Yes. 2 more votes, and we're good. Any other discussion? Okay, Mary Kay?
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Medic Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Okay, now we're going to vote on the main motion that was amended 2 times. Any other discussion? No other discussion? Mary Kay?
Schrader,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Medic Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Hyatt.
Yes. All right, moving right along, item number 4, letter A, public comment.
That was a joke, right? Moving right along.
Moving right along.
I'm very sorry.
Keep her moving. All right, first we have Mr. Wayne Gagnon. Remind everybody that is talking in public comment, we have 5 minutes to speak to something, an item that is on the agenda. Sorry, it doesn't have to be on the agenda.
This on? Okay. First, I want to congratulate the new board members. I hope you all do the best you can for the students in Antigo. That's what I tried to do. The second thing I would like to do is, in our last meeting, I think that I may have misrepresented what Dr. Bardo said. We talked about banning books. He said he didn't say that. And if I offended you or misrepresented you, I apologize. I went to the school board meeting of November 30th, and about an hour and 54 minutes into the meeting, there was some discussion on ICS for equity. And what Dr. Bardo said was, I'm not someone who's a book burner, but these books should be bought by parents who want their children to read it, not in the school district for a student to get. Okay, those were your words. And I have to say, I respectfully disagree with you, Dave. This is a list of the books. There are 65 titles, and they deal with issues like racism, gender equity, history, immigration, poverty, social justice, and diversity. And I feel these are topics our students need to know about. One of the books on the list is a book that I read for a class I took about 2 years ago, An Indigenous People's History of the United States. And it's a history of the United States from a Native American point of view. Another book, another publication on the list is a 1619 Project, a 100-page article put out by the 100-page issue of the New York Times Magazine, put out in 2019, commemorating the 400th anniversary of the first of African slaves that were brought to this country. These are things our students need to know about. We can't hide our history. I've said before that in Germany, school students are required to visit a concentration camp so they can see what happens when the wrong people are in charge. And they're not teaching their children to hate Germany. They're teaching them that mistakes were made, and they can't be made again. We are not responsible for what happened 50 or 100 or 400 years ago. And our students shouldn't feel responsible for that. Nobody should be made to feel guilty or marginalized for the circumstances they're born into. But we have to make them aware of it. Our children shouldn't feel guilty about what happened, but they need to know about it to make sure it doesn't happen again. Because those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And if we don't teach our children about this, it probably will happen again. And then we will have something to feel guilty about. So again, if I misrepresented you, Dave, I apologize. I wish the board success in everything they do, and keep fighting the good fight. Thank you.
Wayne?
I think it'd be in order if, since Mr. Gagnon was challenging Dr. Bardo in the last meeting and coming up gracefully and saying what he just said, that we give Dr. Bardo an opportunity to say something to you.
Wayne, thank you for your apology. And at the
I'm going to add one other thing.
More kind of this exchange. Go ahead.
The only thing I would add is that if you'd gone a little farther, what I said, if there were books in the library from those titles, that we have 18-year-olds who are adults, and they can certainly check out those titles. And then I went on to say that I felt that if there any of these books that were supposedly for our teachers' reference materials, if they were there and if they were not, that their parents should be notified. That's all I said.
Right. Again, I think we need to teach our children. If there are books in there, they should be age appropriate. There's no doubt. Teachers need information. If it's presented to the students correctly by a qualified teacher, we can eliminate a lot of this controversy. One of the big issues you hear about is critical race theory. And one of the things I've heard about it, they're teaching kids to hate this country. History should not teach children to hate this country. It should teach that we've made, we can't say we because we weren't there. Mistakes were made in the past, but we have to make sure our kids know about it so they're not made again. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Gagnon.
Thank you.
And thank you, Wayne.
I believe what we just witnessed here is what our school model is about, being respectful. And if our students can catch a hold of this and see what two grown men just made things right. That's
We should
powerful.
be able to agree to disagree.
Hey, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a second speaker, Mr. James Petro.
It's on? You can hear me okay? I'm going to sit down because I got notes here. Anyway, my name is Jim Tatro, past school board member about 30 years ago. My wife and I had 7 children, all went through the Antigo system and through college. I've always believed in education, and I just got some comments I want to make after reading the paper after the last meeting. It seems like things haven't changed a whole lot up to that point since I was on the board. It's good to have different ideas and opinions. That's what it's all about. The voters decide that. But one comment that the winners won because they were backed by the Republican Party caught my eye. It's just an excuse for them losing, it seems to me, like don't blame me. Although a good reason to vote that way, it would make me look kind of closed-minded as a voter if that was the only reason that I voted for them. I would like to say that I'm proud that I voted for the winners, and I have no idea of their political leanings. I voted for them mainly because I feel they have better ideas on what should be done to get the school district headed in the right direction. Evidently, the voters are tired of all the money, over $30 million spent, with such questionable results. Not to blame anyone, but changes are needed, and I hope we all work together to have that happen. As for the comment that school boards should not be political, I'll agree 100% with that. But I'll also say that as long as I can remember, it's always been political. And that's a big part of the problem. As for being political or not, I've always wondered why the National Teachers Union donates 90% of their money to Democratic candidates. That sounds kind of political to me, and it should to anyone who is not living with their parents anymore. I'm sure that there are a lot of good teachers and others who don't agree with politics being involved, that it should be about the main concern to students, but that's the way it is. I feel that the voters should never vote only on political leanings, but mainly on the views of candidates. Countrywide, maybe too many have been voting along party lines, and that's how Washington and Madison got so screwed up. I have confidence that the voters have had enough, and you can't expect them to stand by without acting. And maybe the next election we will see more changes if the district improves, and that's what the voters expect. Not to blame anyone. No one person caused a decline in our school system ratings, but together I feel improvements can be made if we all work together, and that's what the main goal is. So I wish the new board well. Stand your ground. You have the voters behind you. Maybe some new and different ideas won't hurt. And does the district need changes? Well, only for the last 30 years or so. I feel the real winners in this election, I feel, are the students. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Tatro, and thank you again for serving on the board 30 years ago. I wasn't here, but I'm sure there's some folks that are here that were here then, so thank you very much. Okay, moving along to the student representative report. In your packet, you have an attachment. It's attached with the public comment. Is there a volunteer that would read that, please? One of the board members? Trina, do you have that open?
I do.
Oh, you can read. That's all right.
Okay. So the student report starts with no school on April 15th. Skills USA went to state conference on April 5th and 6th. Mackenzie Weisbracher, did I say that right? Won first place in first aid and CPR. She's going to nationals in Georgia in June. The 9th and 10th grade took the ACT Aspire on April 20th and 21st. There were block days for those 2 days. Odd block day on April 20th, even block day on April 21st. Prom is this Saturday the 30th. Grand March starts at 7:30, and it's $2 for spectators to watch the Grand March. The high school had 3 lockdowns this month. Duke Out Cancer Volleyball Tournament was held at the high school. April 10th to support Mr.
Dukach.
Thank you. The track team sent 8 athletes to an indoor state event. The forensics team sent 4 competitors to the state competition. Julia Boutnick placed first in her I think it's supposed to say in her event. Lexi Klusman, Brett Powell, and Caitlin Pranke placed second in their events. Voting for graduation location took place. Cap and gown distribution is on April 28th during lunch hours. The Vibrant School Survey was sent out to parents and caregivers, and I believe that is the report.
I would like to add to that report. This past Saturday, we had solo ensemble here at the high school, and it was just for the Antigo students. And we had a trooper in Mrs. Carol Schaefer. She stepped up to the plate and she was playing music for the first time by accompanying some of our students because there was a little miscommunication. So we want to say thank you to Mrs. Schaefer for stepping up this past Saturday and filling that gap that came to us. Any other questions about the student report?
I have one, and maybe Mr. Rogers could answer this. So the 3 lockdowns that happened this month, were those like routine lockdowns with the drug dog coming through, or was there an incident?
One was for the drug
Mr.
dog.
Rogers, can you come to the mic, please? Thank you.
One was for the canine drug dog coming through a routine search. The other 2 were for upset students in the hallway, and we didn't want anybody else out in the hallway.
Okay, was this the same student or separate students?
Separate students.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the student report? All right, we will move on to number 6, new business. Letter number A. Approve the Committee of the Whole minutes from April 12, 2022. I'll be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the committee of the whole minutes from April 12th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by Dr. Bardo, seconded by Jill Maddock-Nelson for the Committee of the Whole minutes from April 12. Any discussion? Mary Kay?
Shriver,
I'm going to abstain since I was not a member of the board.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddock Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
I will abstain as I was not a member of the board at that time.
Mary,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Okay, item letter B is Board Development Workshop Update. This is information. What you have in your on your screen there is there's 2 different dates, possible dates for the workshop. So, Dr. Sprague, if you'll help us.
I will. So after the last meeting I did what the board suggested and contacted Barry Forbes from WASB. He gave me the names of 2, he called them more regional members of WASB who'd be available. And both would come for the price of one. The first is Patty Vickman, who I had the pleasure of meeting just over a Zoom meeting, and Cheryl Stinsky, who actually was here last year. So they would come here together and use the board self-evaluation tool results as the catalyst for conversation. I told them about embarking on a strategic planning process, and that is why they suggested then, and we wanted them here early too, the board had agreed. So May 16th, which is a Monday, or May 26th, a Thursday, and 6 to 8 p.m. So if the board is inclined, we could look at a date now.
Okay, are there any preferences between Monday or Thursday, May the 16th or May the 26th?
I would prefer May the 26th.
I agree.
that's your
Yeah.
your job.
The 16th is the 3rd.
And I also have a problem with the Monday, May 16th, so I would be in favor of the 26th also.
I just need a resume link or something. I'll be in the tractor unless it's raining.
Shall we pray for rain?
No.
So you
Better than snow.
Maybe pray for spring.
I actually have a meeting with them tomorrow morning, so is it all right if I lock in May 26th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
May the 26th. Mary Kay, if you'll just send out a memo to all of us to let us put that in our calendars, to be mindful. Okay, we'll move along to item 7, board action. Letter A is second reading of NEOLA policy 4140, termination and resignation. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the second reading of NEOLA policy 4140, termination and resignation as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made by Andy and seconded by Tarina. Any discussion?
I would like to make, I guess, an amendment, to the motion.
Can't you lean forward a little?
Oh, I would like to make an amendment to the motion,
Okay, state your amendment.
that it would read, the employment may be terminated by, upon the majority vote of the Board of Education. So
Okay,
not just solely by the district administrator, is what I'm
You-
trying to say.
Do you mean and or, like we both could, or just the
No.
board?
No, I think the board needs to be involved in that, so I don't think it should be up to just solely the district administrator.
Just to be clear, Angie, our handbook for decades has not had that policy. So we wanted to change NEOLA to match current practice because the board could be meeting a lot. Support staff members do not have contract agreements.
And this is only for support staff.
Only support staff. Any teacher contract does come before the board.
Does this need a second to discuss?
yes.
I'll second.
Motion has been made for the amendment to change the, where it's stricken in red to make that, bring that part of the policy. So it would read, employment may be terminated upon a majority vote of the Board of Education. So that's our discussion.
Is that what the policy already is? So if we did that, we don't actually need to approve it?
What we're trying to do is align NEOLA with the staff handbook that the board did approve.
Okay, so I have a question.
Oh,
So currently, our board policy says one thing and our state handbook says the other thing?
Exactly. Melanie
So we
Ryan
really-
discovered the discrepancy.
So when you said that we would be very busy with that, are we terminating quite a few people?
No, I just meant sometimes there's a decision and that individual doesn't come back the next day, for example, or is sent home. I wouldn't want in those circumstances to try to convene an emergency board meeting, but does it happen often? Absolutely not. But it has.
Sure. Yeah, I imagine, yeah, I can see, every once in a while, but.
Is there an appeals process if support staff, and does that come before the board?
It's in the handbook. I would have to go back. I think there is a portion in there that goes, Melanie is indicating yes. The grievance process does include the board.
So our current practice follows the handbook, so we're looking to align our current practice with the handbook within our policies.
And, I'm sorry, can you just clarify what our current handbook says? So it says that it is upon the majority of the board? No, it says that the district administrator.
Right.
Okay.
And there's always an opportunity, as you can see there, which we currently do as well, give that employee an opportunity to resign rather than be terminated.
And for
And that's in-
clarification, Julie, for clarification, I think I heard it from you, is that if you terminate, as is in the handbook, through the grievance procedure, if they disagree with the termination, they have the right to grieve it, which then comes to us.
Correct.
Okay.
However, if the board wishes to leave that in there upon the majority of the vote of the Board of Education, then we would have to go through the process of changing the handbook, correct?
So just to be clear, if somebody is hired and they are doing whatever that their supervisor thinks they should be terminated for, they contact you and tell you that they're going to terminate them?
And HR, yes.
And if we went by, as Angie's amendment here states, that person could just say, oh, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to keep collecting my pay. I'll show up at 1 minute before quitting time and keep collecting my pay.
Right.
Or if there's other issues that maybe aren't quite justified, the issues might be then brought forward to the board.
But personnel issues are that's my lane. Angie, with all due respect, that's why the board hired me. And I'm happy to do those, I always have. I respectfully don't think it should come to the board. It's not in your purview, shouldn't be in your purview.
Interesting, okay.
I'll call the question on the amendment.
Okay, question has been called. We will do a vote on the amendment, which the amendment is to leave in the words upon a majority of the Board of Education.
Are we also including by the district administrator?
That was
Or are
not-
we just keeping the policy as written?
Just keeping the policy as written then is what we would do.
Okay, can you read the amendment that we're voting on? So everybody's clear, including myself.
The amendment would be the same motion that was already given, but just with the knowledge that employment may be terminated upon a majority vote by the Board of Education is the policy.
Okay, yeah, we're just leaving the policy as is, that's why I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
It's a long
Yes.
amendment.
Yeah.
I move the board approve the second reading of NEOLA policy 4140, termination of resignation as presented, to include upon a majority vote of the Board of Education.
Correct. Does everybody understand? Okay, Mary Kay, will you vote, please?
Schrader,
No.
Bardo,
No.
Borneman,
No.
Maddox Nelson,
No.
Matt Miller,
No.
Mary,
No.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Hyatt,
No. Okay, now we will go back to the main motion, which is I move the board approve the second reading of NEOLA policy 4140, termination and resignation as presented, with what is crossed out of the policy and adding by the district administrator. Everybody on the same page? Okay, Mary Kay?
Bardo,
Yes.
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
No.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Letter B, consideration to approve support staff wage increase. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the support staff wage schedule as
Mr. Mayor, just a
presented.
minute. Dr. Bartle he actually
I
said Danny.
believe
You
our-
did say
our-
Danny.
our good president needs to walk out of the room.
Oh, yes, please, thank you. Let's back up this train just for a moment. Mary Kay, I need to recuse myself and turn the gavel over to the Vice President. The next item on the agenda deals with conflict personally with me. Just come get me when you're done.
So, Mr. Mary, if you want to make your motion, please.
I move the board approve the support staff wage schedule as presented with an increase of 4.71%. And the schedule also includes an adjustment to classifications 1, 6, 7, 8, H, 8, HC, and the creation of a classification 16, electrician / HVAC, HVAC technician.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Mary.
I think we discussed this enough in the cow meeting, so I don't have anything to add.
I have a question. On the memo, it states, Amy Dons has requested the reclassification of a librarian, but I don't see where that's acknowledged in that motion. Am I missing the connection, or is that not there?
It's reflected on the wage schedule. Sorry, it's on the wage schedule.
So it is included.
So it is included. I just,
Observatory, Kristen.
Tim, I have a couple questions. The 4.71, I know there are people who are getting $1 raise or a $2 raise. So, just so I understand, so when you say it's a 471, that includes them getting it and then the 471, or does it mean 471 total? So if they're getting the money up front, so technically it's money up front and then everybody gets a 471. Okay. I'm going to make a motion, or excuse me, an amendment, because JD asked me to look this over at the last meeting, and he wanted my opinion. And I'm okay with all these changes. However, I believe that 4 and 5, which are our instructional aids, correct? Am I saying that correctly? I believe because they are with our students every day, more than anybody else in this grouping, I'm going to make an amendment that they also receive a $1 increase and then the 4.71. So that's my amendment.
so then Dave, are you suggesting that we keep the library clerk in their own classification, or would you keep them tied in with the instructional aid?
I'm going to keep it where it's at with the change. Because they moved it to classification 4, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only other thing, Tim, is I know obviously it's more than 4.71 because of the other changes, and now I'm asking for this change. So when all is said and done, if this passes, and if it doesn't, I'd like to know what the true increase is for the changes that have been made. You know what I mean? You said people who are getting a $1 raise or a $2 raise, and then we're talking 471. So it's going to be more already than 471, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'll just want to know so that you send out an email to the board stating what the true percentage was, so that we know that. And then another question I have, Tim, is there anybody in the support staff who is not on the schedule? Do we have any number of people who are? I don't want to know their names then. Could you tell me, is it like 3, 5, 1, 2? Was the plan to also give them 4.71?
One of them was included in the memo, and the other one I hadn't had discussions on.
Okay. Then, my personal opinion is that all our support staff should get 471, whether they're on the schedule or not. I just think that's fair. So I guess I have to amend my amendment to do it correctly, since Danny...
I don't think you got a second to start out with, so I think.
Oh, okay, then, if there was no second, I'll make the motion that we add $1 to 4 and 5, and that all support staff personnel, whether they're on the schedule or not, receive 4.71, a minimum of.
Second.
Tim, you got a rough idea of how much more money that is? Can we afford that?
Not at this time. I know. I kind of thought there was going to be a little bit of a discussion tonight, so I did a little bit of quick on the napkin calculation. And I think, we, in Jake's area in particular, in maintenance and custodial, there were going to be some retirements. So the retirements were kind of built into the how we made some of the adjustments. I think 1% increase roughly represents about $30,000. So, when you think of a support staff person, they probably work 1,400 hours a year. So individually, it's not a significant impact for any one person. Collectively, I don't know the number that we have on staff right now, but JD, maybe it's 30,000, give or take, but I'll be sure to verify that number.
We can put it in, we can review.
I have a question. Classification number 3 has behavioral support instructional assistant. Is that somebody who's with the kids daily? Or is that, I just want to clarify what that role is. Thank you.
Where are you looking, Trina?
Second column, I'm on the support staff plan. Second column, classification number 3, the last position. Behavioral support instructional assistant.
The answer to the question would be yes.
Okay.
He's fast.
Were you thinking of trying to add that in, Trina, or were you just curious?
Well, I mean, if the rationale is because they're with the kids all day, I don't know how you missed that category, but maybe, yeah, I guess.
Well, in the category, miss wasn't on purpose.
No, absolutely, that's not what I meant.
I saw IA
That's not
for
what
4 and 5.
Yep, that's not what I meant at all. I just don't want, staff to feel like that, so that's, yep.
So you should make an amendment.
Okay.
It's basically just that category.
All right,
To-
well, the whole category, so then, are we adding the whole category with all 4 positions in there, or just the behavioral support, and can we do that?
You can do it, it would just.
You just have to state it that way.
Okay. So I amend that we add behavioral support instructional assistants to also receive a $1 raise. Correct? That right?
We need a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how hard is it for us to hire IAs at any of these 3 positions?
We've had really good success hiring IAs. In part, we believe it's because of the schedule with summers off, particularly those who have families then and can spend that time with their kids. The area that we've had great difficulty in hiring is maintenance and custodial, as Jake shared with you. But IAs and other support staff, we've had really good fortune of hiring whenever we need to.
I see in the support staff plan that our IAs are, our classification 3 and 4 is slightly above right now what the district peer groups
Right.
would be.
Tim does a great job of collecting those comparables, and then we discuss them at length before we make a recommendation to the board. And I know, I think it was last year that the board had indicated we should look at special ed aides, and so we gave them an increase prior to CPI as well. So we do try to stay timely with our recommendations, and in part that's why that group didn't come before you for the adjustment prior to CPI.
So they did get an additional increase last year. And I guess, you know, I'm certainly not opposed to IAs getting more money. I'm just looking down the road that when our ESSER money runs out, money's not gonna be so easy to come by, but we're certainly not gonna decrease their pay by $1.
Right.
That's not gonna go over. I just think we gave an adjustment last year, just giving them the percentage this year.
Julie, do you have a strong opinion on whether we should vote for? Dave, I'm impressed that you were willing to give more money. I was expecting you to maybe ask for less, so good for you. Do you,
Well, you asked me to look
I
at
did,
it.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
In general, we want to support everybody, and so even the classifications, I've had really good discussions with people who have different thoughts on which employees should be in which classification, etc. So it's always healthy discussion, but in the end, you know, somebody can feel a little less valued, and we try hard not to make that happen. But it is possible, and that's something we can't avoid altogether. But I just would like to publicly say we're very pleased with our support staff and proud of the work they do. They make the buildings and help the kids every single day.
They work very hard and they're very valued. We talk about looking ahead, and I'm not excluding other roles in any capacity at all. Just sharing feedback too. Looking ahead, we look at achievement, behavioral struggles. Staff routinely share we need more bodies in the buildings. I think IAs can often be overlooked, not intentionally, but they make a huge impact in the environment and the learning.
Any further discussion? Okay, we will vote on the amendment to the amendment, which is to make a new category, basically. It would be 3, unfortunately, BS, IA, for $1 raise within at the beginning of the schedule, prior to the 4.71. Okay, Mary Kay?
Can you say that one more time, Dave?
Her amendment was because the original amendment gave $1 prior to 4.71 for classifications 4 and 5. And what Trina was adding was for the behavioral support instructional assistant also to receive $1 prior to 4.71.
So we're only voting on that addition.
At this point.
Thank you.
Mary Kay?
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
No.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo?
Yes. So we'll now move on to the initial amendment, which was to add $1 prior to 4.71 for classifications 4 and 5, but now has added the behavioral support instructional assistants in classification 3. Everybody clear? Mary Kay?
Maddox Nelson?
Yes.
Matt Miller?
Yes.
Mary?
No.
Shriver?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Borneman?
Yes.
And Bardo?
Yes. Now I gotta go back to the original motion. So basically, the new motion with the amendments is, I move the board approve the support staff wage schedule as presented with an increase of 4.71%, and the schedule also includes an adjustment to classifications 1, 3 for the behavioral assistant, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8HC, and the creation of classification 6, electrician, HVAC technician. Any questions? Mary Kay?
Sorry, yes, I do have a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Sorry, so in that motion as it states then, we are keeping the library clerk in with the instructional aid, so it's a 4.7 plus an additional $1.
Right, that's what Mrs. Dahms proposed.
Sorry, just.
And this is a one-time adjustment, if you will, correct? This
Yes.
is not gonna be like,
Right,
okay.
correct. Mary Kay?
Matt Miller?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Shriver?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Borneman?
Yes.
Maddox Nelson?
Yes.
Bardo?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Dr. Bardo, could I just make a point of clarification? We
Sure.
generally would implement this then on the July 1.
Yes, July 1 is the start of the new year, school year, correct. I assume that's why you wanted this out of the way at this point in time, so you could get ready for July 1. But yes, thank you, Tim.
Randy thought it was kicked out. Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes,
this
sir.
next motion also deals with support staff?
Yes, sir, so I will let Dave take the next motion too. I thought about that when I got out there. Yeah, well, that's.
I apologize, Mr. President. For board action, item C, consideration to approve support staff retirement incentive. Would someone like to make the motion?
I move the board approve $1,000 HRA contribution for support staff who have been employed with the district a minimum of 10 years and submit a retirement notice at least 90 days before retirement.
I second.
Did you? Okay. We have a first and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Mary Kay?
Mary?
Yes.
Shriver?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Borneman?
Yes.
Maddox Nelson?
Yes.
Matt Miller?
Yes.
Bardo?
Yes. And we can now hopefully bring back the president.
I think that mic is on.
All right, thank you for your patience, and just in the future when we do the agendas, things with support staff, if we can keep those together like that, that really would help. Thank you. All right, moving on to item D. Consideration to approve Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin 2022-2023 contract. I'll be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin 2022-2023 contracts as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded for the approval of the Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin contract. Discussion.
I did reach out to Heather McCann earlier today to just to share questions. I had her to gather feedback. One of them is our community is aware that our math scores are low. Out of curiosity, does the Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin offer any feedback regarding our current curriculum in terms of our district needs?
So I actually have some information. We have 3 people who work directly with the Math Institute, and I had shared last time. It's kind of a lead, the teachers lead then the learning and share out the information in a systematic way. So then we're building leaders within our system. So I actually, they couldn't be here tonight. We had asked them to kind of be here if you had some questions or wanted to hear more directly from the people who are working with the Math Institute. And at the middle school, they haven't yet employed this strategy yet, so next year would be new for them. But I do have a document. I apologize that it's not given to you previous or ahead of time, but it addresses some of those things on here, and I'd be happy to read it aloud and also give you a copy if you feel like that's appropriate from the people who are directly working with the Math Institute currently. It addresses some of that too.
I was just gonna say, don't trip right when they said it.
So again, we have 3 elementary teachers who work directly with the Math Institute, and here their names are at the top: Renee Smith, Jolene Keppel, and Kia Hapke, each at one of our elementary schools. They work specifically with Paige Richards, is the person's name, who is from the Math Institute. So they give some examples of how she's kind of a go-to person for some information about building capacity of teams and leaders within each school. They give examples modeled for the classroom teachers, which we spoke a little bit about last time, fish bowls, where they kind of watch the instruction. They support our administrative team on coherence across the buildings. They guide us on professional development for staff, and then we have a math team as well that kind of talks through some of those things you were discussing earlier, Jill. Building our capacity as coaches and math interventionists. She helps to provide resources for the instruction, so suggestions or additions we may need to make to that universal instruction. She talks through number routines that emphasize deeper mathematical understanding and connections, helps with the math shifts or practices necessary. We've seen some updates to the academic standards, so recognizing those shifts and how we need to change our instruction. She also provides ideas and strategies for student engagement and participation. She's a continuous resource for questions, concerns, thoughts. She helps in person or email or also phone calls. We've been working through building our tiered systems of support for math. We haven't yet addressed that as a district, so she's been integral in helping with those ideas. She also provides ideas and guidance on best practices for intervention and other resources you might have heard that referred to as RTI. She helps to facilitate professional learning so that the math team carried forward our math mission and vision. That was part of our work last year when we started creating the universal math team. We have a math vision so that we're sticking to what we want our students to be as mathematicians. And so some goals that they've been able to accomplish this year with those 3 people in place, working with them, and then also some of those fishbowl examples with all teachers. identifying the standards for mathematical practice and action, understanding critical standard progressions. That leads to some of that RTI work as well, examining the shifts in the classroom practice and their impact on student understanding, and supporting teachers for implementing high leverage instructional practices in math. So there's a little bit of student feedback at the bottom as well. It's been very positive regarding the working relationship with the Math Institute. Students and staff have found these learning experiences to be engaging and worthwhile. There has been a clear shift in student mindset towards math. Students believe they can achieve and are more willing to persevere. Some anecdotal evidence: I hate math to I can do hard things in math from a student's perspective.
Jill, as part of your question is you're wondering, like, if we did something else, would it work better? Or what would something else look like? Or you just...
I just think ESSER funds, curriculum is expensive as a purchase. I'm not proposing that right now. I'm just saying hypothetically, if we were to explore a big purchase like that, actually to back up, the Math Institute, I would assume, works with several districts and has their knowledge and expertise in there. So with our math scores being low, have they, or would it be in their capacity to share feedback to say, it's my understanding they're going to work with our curriculum and then help meet our needs. But would they have any feedback or recommendations on curricula that might be more beneficial to our district and our district needs?
Yeah, that is part of what she has done. And also, if you look in it was about the 5th or 6th bullet down, providing and talking through our resources for universal instruction. That's kind of that tier 1, what everybody receives. That's what we refer to as universal instruction. So she does help us talk through that. I just want to re-emphasize, though, regardless of any resource that we select, there will always be supplements or additions that we will need. And also, if you're curious about funding sources for this contract, our elementary schools have access to AGR funds, which are those used to be SAGE dollars, and they have building level goals tied to increasing not only ELA but math student achievement. So this is one of the ways that we work to help address that. And if you recall from previous board presentations, 3 of the strategies that we're able to use in AGR, one is coaching. So this is one of the coaching considerations. We're also able to use like a student to teacher ratio, which we have enlisted just this year. We've started doing that more. We hadn't previously. And then the 3rd strategy is one-to-one student tutoring, which is interesting, but we're in a situation where we want to reach more students than just one at a time at this point. So we've really relied heavily on those other 2, the student to teacher ratio and the coaching strategies. And then for middle school, because they don't have access to AGR funds, we'd actually be using Title funds for professional development or Title IV funds, depending on how all of that shakes out when we get through our strategic planning process in June when we review our continuous improvement plans. Because Title IV is about well-rounded education and making sure that all students have access to similar experiences. So since we're noticing that it's working at the elementary, and we're seeing some success, which you saw mid-year in our data, we'd like to hopefully extend that up and provide similar strategies for our students at 4th and 5th grade.
Did you say that would be Title IV and Title I?
It wouldn't be Title I. We'd be utilizing potentially Title II, which is professional development, and Title IV.
Okay.
So you're saying that the Math Institute does agree that our current math curriculum is appropriate for our district, our area, I guess if you are demographics, and that it's working to meet our standards? So, am I correct?
So I've never had that direct question. I've never had that conversation with Paige. So I can't say, I don't want to speak for her. What I'm saying is any resource that we have is going to need tweaking and adjustment or support in some way. So we have a math resource, My Math, in place for about 5 years or so. We are working to not only utilize that resource to the best of the abilities, because we had some professional development, but it wasn't quite as comprehensive as it potentially needed to be when it was initially rolled out. So some professional development about using the areas of that resource that we have, but then also addressing the academic shifts that came more recently in math standard review, which talks much more about math talks and things like that. So kind of bolstering that as a universal resource.
Do you think, Amy, sometime one of the things that always confuses me is the difference between curriculum and standards? That maybe for math you could just bring to another meeting, show us an example of like what the I don't know if it's like, you know, divide or it's find the practical or divide the polynomial. I can't remember my algebra very well. You know, just, you know, because there's, I don't know if the curriculum's like, how are you going to do this versus the standard is you're doing this. And I don't know.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but does DPI standard sets the state standard of what all districts should be working towards, and then districts are able to, I guess, find curriculums that they want to use, as long as it's working towards that, meeting that standard, then that's what the curriculum that you use. Does that make sense?
So that's correct that DPI chooses academic standards and then we choose to adopt those. From there, though, there's a lot of standards if you look at just one grade level content area. So then from there, we look at our student needs and what we deem appropriate per grade level, and we choose essential standards then from each grade level. Last spring, that was just completed for mostly ELA at the elementary level, and then at the secondary level, 6 and up for all other content areas. This year, we're just completing that process on May 2nd with math. So we've just chosen our essential standards in math, and those will be able to be updated on our essential standards document on the website. But we're just working through vertical alignment, which means flow from grade level to grade level May 2nd. And then as far as choosing a resource then, that's part of that curriculum review process that we need to go through. If we're noticing that our selections and what we deem as appropriate, if our resource isn't addressing those appropriately, then we would need to make a shift. But that's a process that we go through as a district, and albeit a new process because we haven't been doing that.
And we've been using the same math curriculum for, you said, 4 or 5 years now?
Correct.
And utilizing the Math Institute as the resource to help with that?
The Math Institute is new. So we had that at the elementary level for last year, and we'd like to use it this year again for elementary, this upcoming school year for elementary and for middle school.
Okay.
Grades 4 and 5 at the middle school.
Yeah, so Math Institute strengthens the skill set of our staff, and then our staff can then teach their colleagues to strengthen internally, so it's an investment to make our staff stronger, like kind of a 1 year, and I guess, I don't know, would you anticipate additional years because this one is for grades 4 or 5, correct?
There's one for grades 4 or 5, and then one of them is for grades K through 3 again, so there's 2 contracts. And they're of similar costs because we piggyback the days so that there weren't additional costs related to travel and communication and things like that. So there's actually 2 contracts.
As attachments right now?
I believe so.
Okay, I appreciate that because I feel like I'm confused on that.
So when she comes, she just pulls these 3 from the teaching for the day. So there's only 3 subs that we're looking at being in addition, or how many teachers, because they're all on, I see Wednesdays that we do have full schedules for students. Sure. They are not classroom teachers, they're interventionists and support, so there's no subbing costs. Donna Smith would like to share a little information. She's the principal at North.
All right, so we have been working with Paige Richards from Math Institute of Wisconsin. Not only does Jolene, Kia, and Renee work with her, but also all 3 of the principals have been working with her. And as we shared in the winter data, we've really been focusing on the math practices. So it's not necessarily the resource. We've been talking about the math practices. Thanks. So one of the resources that we have been using are the Achieve the Core documents. So if you're not familiar with that, it is a document that does go over the math practices as well as the standards. And we really utilize that to focus our goals and what supports our students need. So yes, we look at the curriculum, that we currently have, but we focus on the math practices.
And part of what excites me about this is the positive teacher feedback. That doesn't always happen with change, and we trust our staff, and when they are on board and excited, it translates to students then benefiting from that excitement. So I think that's a key piece.
Yeah, and Heather shared a lot of excitement for the middle school staff in seeing the successes at the elementary level.
Right.
To support what you just shared, yes. I'm gonna go back to the 2 contracts. What am I missing when I'm looking at the invoice?
Is it because they're full day, it's not broken out? Is it, so each one?
There's a different format for some reason for each. So the elementary one looks like a synopsis of all the days, and then the one for the middle school is more prescriptive of if there's a need for a cancellation or a shift of the day or what the agreements are. One is just lengthier in all of the terms of the contract, and then one is an overview.
Do you see that, Jill? Just a different format
So,
for the 2. Do you see 2 attachments then?
yep, I see the invoice and I see the one with like more of a description. So you're saying the one with the description is the middle school
Yeah.
and the invoice itself is elementary.
Correct.
So what's the total cost being requested right now? I thought the total cost, what's the total cost?
It would be almost $41,000. It's about $21,000 for each contract. And do you feel that what they will learn will still be applicable if we change curriculum, or is this only focusing on our current curriculum? So our current resource, the skills they're learning here are applicable beyond any resource. They're learning about mathematical practices that are good for student engagement and achievement and implementing any resource that we might have. So it's really about student engagement, math talk, the practices that the teacher is enlisting, the way they set up the classroom. It's not about a resource.
Yeah, so they'll work with us with whatever resource curriculum we have, but they're gonna base it off of what we have, so it would be flexible, I guess.
Correct. I'm saying if we change it, what we're learning is still.
Oh, sure, sorry.
So are some of the high leverage teaching practices, are those going to be like, they could be applied across subjects, right? Like, I'm thinking of I do, we do, you do, like that's something that they might teach them, and I don't know which ones they're doing, but that's, for example, one of the high leverage ones out there that a lot of people are talking about right now, and that one you can teach math with it, you can teach reading, science, social studies. Are you finding that to be true, that once they learn some of these teaching practices, the high leverage ones, that they can apply them in other categories?
Yeah. Yes. Specifically, our first demonstration that Paige came into our classrooms for was a 3-read strategy. So absolutely we used it for math, but it's a great strategy to use for whether you're looking at reading, whether you're science, it's really the 3 reads. So you read it 3 different times, and she taught the strategy.
How is this different than what our current coaches are doing? Or is it just to enrich our current coaches? That's part of it. We're trying to build our coaching capacity as well, but I also want us to recognize that the first coaches that our district ever had were targeted only for ELA. And so we're trying to shift that more to instructional best practices regardless of content area. This is our first year having more of those conversations, that it's not just about ELA. So we're seeing a lot of success with one of our coaches at the middle high school level who's coaching in a variety of areas, from math to science to middle school social studies or whatever it might be. But originally when we started coaching, it was very targeted at ELA, but we're trying to really intentionally build our coaches' capacity as well, because we haven't done that with math necessarily. And those are really the 2 high leverage subjects that you hear the most about, ELA and math. But Trina's correct in the fact that she was speaking to the gradual release of responsibility, that I do, we do, you do. That's a strategy that can be helpful when implemented in any classroom.
I actually think my biggest struggle at the moment is that I was under the impression the description was the description for the invoice, so I was anticipating the total cost of what we were voting on was 20,000.
Same.
And so that's actually more where I'm kind of trying to shift my thought process. Because then sorry, and you may have answered this already. How long are we anticipating, like, what's the commitment in terms of how many years would we be utilizing this? So this would be 40,000 approximately this year. How long would we anticipate continuing with the Math Institute contract?
So we only sign yearly contracts
Correct.
for something like this.
Correct.
So right now, we're planning for next year. I don't want to make an assumption or any prediction about what we might be seeing or what needs we might have in the upcoming year. We're entering a second year for the elementary. Is it possible we'd have to do a second year with the middle school grades? Perhaps. I don't want to make any assumptions about what we might need because we haven't lived that yet. So there's no commitment beyond this 1 year.
Amy, just for clarification for the board, we're talking title funds, we aren't talking Fund 10 or ESSER, correct?
No, this would be out of middle school. The grade 4 and 5 would be out of Title II or Title IV. And then the elementary contract comes out of AGR funds, which has to be targeted in those 3 areas of coaching, the 18-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, or 1-to-1 tutoring. So we're very limited in some of the strategies we can employ in using those funds.
And I understand that both of you think a lot of Paige Richards. And obviously she's in other districts besides us. My hope would be that you talk to her about what curriculums are in other schools that she services that she thinks are the best, and that we should, use her to help us, when we're looking for a change in our curriculum, to find what she thinks are maybe the best 2 or 3 that you can look at. Just a thought.
So, to clarify for taxpayers, because I'm sorry I'm not familiar with where this money comes from yet, I have a lot to learn. Dave, can you clarify for taxpayers what that means, where these funds are coming from?
Fund 10 is the one that Tim does the formula with, which is what our local people are taxed for. So when you get your bill in January that says you owe this on your property, that's what goes into Fund 10. And basically, for the most part, Fund 10 is used primarily for salaries and benefits. Then the federal government has all kinds of titles, and we're probably most familiar with Title IX, which gave women the right to have sports equal with boys. But there's all kinds of other titles that they have put forth, and Title II, Title IV, they are 2 of the titles that we can use to do these kind of things. And the AGR, I think there used to be a different name back when I was superintendent. That was where you had small class size to get a special grant, and I can't remember what it was called.
Sage.
Sage, thank you. Yeah, it's been a while.
And so it's specifically state grant funds that we have to spend on something, right, or we lose them?
Yeah, we have to spend it on indicated areas, so you can't spend it on whatever you'd like. They're targeted for different things.
Titles are federal, correct? And then what was Sage is state, correct? Okay. But it's different, but it's the Sage funds, or whatever they're called now, it's different than the Fund 10, which is what Tim really has to keep track of.
Correct.
And AGR stands for Achievement Gap Reduction, right?
Correct.
So it's all about targeting for your max result, which is why it's got just those 3 categories.
So I think there's a lot of benefits to this. I would like to see, or maybe follow up on the average number of contracts, years involvement Math Institute has, going back to what you shared earlier, Andy, of looking ahead. I would like to utilize this resource most effectively while also being conscious of the investment overall. I don't know, I venture to guess they have some feedback or recommendations on what our goals are and how long it would take to reach those goals. I'm not holding you to that by any means, Amy, I'm just curious on feedback with that.
Jill, are you asking how many years other districts have used
No.
it? No. Okay.
If I'm the Math Institute and I'm talking to Amy, I feel like I probably have some idea of what level of involvement to reach the Antigo district's goals. So that's, again, I'm just going back to what I thought was their requested amount to vote upon, doubled now, and then looking ahead. So, and then what would our game plan be? It would be ideal to utilize the strengths of a one-year contract internally from that point. That would be ideal. So I'm curious on feedback moving forward or after tonight.
The other thing we have to recognize as a board is that the district, now that I know it's being funded by Titles 2, 4, and AGR, we're always going to get Title 2 and 4 and AGR if we meet the requirements. And if we don't spend it on the Mathematics Institute, they will have to come up with another program to put in place for us to spend that money, because federal funds, we get a certain amount and we're expected by the federal government to spend it.
Good point.
I just wanted to add, as a comment to you, Jill, I know that Amy had shared, like, our goal really is to build the capacity of our teachers. We have those 3 staff at the elementary. They are not coaches. Technically, their title is literacy and math support teachers, or one of them is not a full-time teacher and she's just a math support teacher. So again, building the capacity of those teachers, and, you know, their role is support teacher and coach, but really their title is support teacher. So they are starting to coach. They're coaching our teachers, and our goal would be that gradual release to have that internal coaching.
And I don't want to overlook or minimize the positive feedback that has been shared by staff or by buildings. So there's a lot of positive impacts of the Math Institute, and I apologize if that was overshadowed. And Dave, I appreciate your feedback in terms of funding sources as well.
Can I just address, like, going forward with when these contracts come up, if we could have them clearly labeled as, like, Antigo Middle School and for the elementary school, because, like, Jill, I also thought it was 20,000 versus 40,000. That's how it appeared to me on the agenda.
Let me address that just for a moment.
So,
According to parliamentary procedure, the motion is presented, we're gonna pass what is presented. So we cannot add the other $20,000 invoice tonight, and you can't just change an agenda in the middle of a meeting. So we can only vote on the one invoice that's there, that we see. We can't do both of those invoices tonight.
The cost is listed in that first one though, Danny, and that is what we presented at COW as well.
However, the invoice is $20,475.
Mm-hmm. The contract has that cost in it as well.
Yeah, so you're just saying, Amy, the contract, well, the contract is serving as the invoice for the middle school.
Correct.
Right, which has, so it's listed in there, Danny, 6 days, I want to say.
I apologize. I do agree that that could be more clear in regards to who each contract is for. So I'm taking some notes on how to be more clear with that in the future. My intention and hope tonight was that we would be able to approve both so that we could solidify these dates with the Institute, because that is the biggest concern of why we are bringing it forward earlier in the year, so that we
Correct.
are able to utilize these dates.
Dr. Sprague is going to point out where that's at.
Section 6.
Section 6, compensation, for a total of $20,475 plus expenses including mileage, hotel, and meals.
But that is for one invoice, that is not
Right.
two, correct?
For whatever reason, they submitted it in different formats. One, like Amy said, with the narrative on the front end, and then secondly, just the invoice for the other grades, partially because the work is the same, just different grade levels. So, and we didn't change that format either at Committee of the Whole. So I just, I regret we didn't have that question last time. We could have clarified it then.
So if we agree to as presented, we're agreeing to the contract for the middle school and to the invoice for the elementary school.
That was the intent of the motion, yes, as identified by the plural contracts.
So the contract that you're seeing is for the middle school. Thank you, Trina, for clarifying that. From Missouri, you gotta show me. The
Right.
contract is for the middle school and the invoice is for the elementary.
And if approved, you would be able to confirm scheduling for the middle school, correct? Because that one's the one in the contract form?
If approved, we'd be able to confirm both.
Okay. Yes, the middle school one seems to be more in question, just because of the layout, so I just wanted to make sure.
Is there any other discussion? Andy? All right, hearing no other discussion, we will do a roll call vote. Mary Kay?
Shriver?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Bartle?
Yes.
Borneman?
Yes.
Maddox Nelson?
Yes.
Matt Miller?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Hyatt?
Yes. Okay, thank you, Amy and Donna, for that presentation. Moving on to letter E, consideration to approve eduClimber software purchase. I'll be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the eduClimber software purchase as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion?
Can you clarify what the issue was with the current system we're using? I know that you said there were some teacher issues. Could you just clarify that for me, please?
Sure, not necessarily teacher issues, not necessarily, but we were one of the first school districts who signed on with eduClimber. And through that process, with Five Lab, excuse me. So we were one of the first districts, and then they became significantly larger. And as things grew, our system did not keep up with some of their changes and updates. And we weren't kind of in the notification process of making those changes and updates with them. And we saw a lot of discrepancies in the data whenever we would pull the data. You haven't seen much of it shared with you, if really at all, because we question the validity of it often as a staff. We tried to do train the trainers with some of the data sharing that we had in the initial years, and then it never really took hold because every time we were riddled with seeing incorrect data that was being pulled. So when we went to rectify some of those changes, which we can do, it never became resolved to a place that we felt that the data was clean, that we were able to share out with our staff, or even with a presentation perhaps that we would bring forward to the board or the community. So we feel like the shift to use eduClimber will really help us because we're entering new, we'll have a clean slate, and we'll be able to utilize a lot more of their resources, which are geared directly for elementary, middle, and high school
they have a lot more to offer in their platform. Last time I had shared with you some of the information that they are able to provide, from parent letters all the way to tracking our intervention system in a seamless way, in addition to all of the things that 5Lab was offering us as well. So it's more comprehensive and user-friendly from what we're accustomed to seeing.
And we did try. This is my 4th year, and it was purchased before I arrived, so it's been a few years that we've worked with always a different customer service representative. That person on their end changed. But most recently, Amy and I would have meetings, Amy far more than I joined sometimes, and just without resolution. And they know about our frustration. It's not been, in fact, the last time the board had a presentation using that system, we had to have a rep on the phone. I don't know if you guys remember that, in case the data didn't load. I mean, that really limits us.
So we'd be not renewing our contract, and then this would be a replacement for that system.
At the last meeting, wasn't it said, Tim, you were still gonna use it though?
There's a different suite, so they offer a suite of resources, so kind of thinking like there's a financial piece that he utilizes. This is their data warehousing piece. There's also different systems that they use.
So basically, Tim's still gonna use the
Yeah.
financial that we're already paying for, and we're taking away the
Data warehouse.
The data warehouse cost. Is there a huge difference in cost, Amy?
There is not a huge difference. It's on the onset, there's an upload fee to
Sure.
carry over all of your files, to work with the people in Dustin's role who are much smarter than I with data systems, spreadsheets, and things like that, but to set all of that up. But then the recurring fee is very similar. So we just like to have something in place. A lot of our teachers are really on the cusp of wanting to be able to have real-time data in their hands that they can trust and rely upon, and we just have not been able to do that because we haven't trusted what we're seeing.
Can you tell me who uses this system, like on a daily basis? I apologize, maybe that's kind of
eduClimber? Well, who would use this type of system?
Yes, is that going to be teachers, or is that going to be administration? Is that going to be?
It could be both. We never really got to the teacher level as a system with 5Lab because we got to some teams, like our PBIS team was using it at some levels. But even as an admin team, it was a little bit of a struggle to always look at it and feel confident in the data that we were seeing. It's a very complex system of carryover and then residual data once deleted, and things that are difficult to just work through on the fly. You have to really understand computer systems. But it would be all the way from admin team to bring things to you, to our systems teams that we have to review student level data, and then also in the classroom it could be. But we already have talked with them about a rollout plan of how it could be systematic so that we're doing a good job of making sure that people are understanding and feeling supported in how they're using that resource.
So is there going to be a group that goes, I don't know, and is like formally trained on how to
Yep.
use this, not just calling support?
Yep.
I think this is one of the things, when we talk about things have to change, this is one of the things that really has to change, because I can remember when the person who was in Amy's position before, she'd always have to go, to support, and then support isn't there, they're doing something else. And it sounds like it really hasn't changed that much since then. And so, yeah, things have to change. This is one of the things that's got to change.
Otherwise, you had tons and tons of manual data correction to make it.
That is correct.
We had a full day PD 1 or 2 years ago, and so we were assembled at the tech. We had a large group there with the warehouse vendor we currently have, and from login on, it was, and we didn't stay 8 hours, although that's what it was scheduled, because when we logged in, we saw incorrect data, and that was really tough. And the rep was there with us, and that was a hard pill to swallow, and he couldn't fix it.
So currently, if I'm a classroom teacher looking for data on my classroom, how am I getting that?
You're probably making some sort of Google document or spreadsheet to help you disaggregate that, or pulling a file from Infinite Campus and then putting it together and how you'd like it to be sorted.
Clunky.
We don't have, this tool is not in teachers' hands to create classroom groups or track any sort of progress for individual students.
Okay.
The 5Lab tool.
We are in a better place just with our data collection from teachers, and they need ease of use. Like maybe 5 years ago, they weren't. Data's only as good as it's going in and then coming back out. And so I feel like we're like primed to utilize and have our teachers utilize that and make it easier for them to be more proactive and to be more responsive to their students.
Amy, I forgot, but FastBridge is a reading progress monitor. Will that pull the data into
Yes.
this thing?
Yes.
So they can, I don't know how often we use that.
3 times a year. And progress monitoring, if you're a student who's progress monitored, typically that's week or every other week. So there's real-time data being uploaded nightly from a system like this to be able to adjust plans or instruction daily if necessary.
And other school districts are using this and having good luck with it.
Yeah, we have several. One of our administrators is a big advocate for this. She had used it in a previous school district as a coach and also a reading teacher, so she was able to see at her fingertips student grouping, those parent letters, progress monitoring, how easy a system, once you have it all set and ready to go, teachers can manipulate and use immediately. This program was created by school psychologists who were noticing that data collection for teachers was very time consuming and difficult, so they really have catered to what teachers need.
So maybe I want to piggyback off of Dave whenever he asked, we're still going to be using the same program for Temp, right? And what's the cost for that program going to become? Plus paying an additional cost for this program, or am I mistaken?
So we use, the program Amy's referring to is called 5Lab.
Yeah.
5Lab costs the district, I think approximately $10,000 a year. And this one, you can see the yearly cost is 15.
So Fab Lab would not be,
5Lab is not a part of the business suite, so I use 2 of them. One is,
gotcha.
it's called 5Cast, where I'm doing budget projections, and the other is an analytic tool.
Okay. I know you like those. That's why I was just making sure. Yes. Is there any other discussion for the motion that's on the floor? All right, hearing no discussion, we will do a roll call vote.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bartle,
Yes.
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Amy, thanks for your input.
Thank you. Moving on, consideration to approve the 2022-2025 Social School 4 EDU agreement. Looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the 2022 through 2025 Social School 4 EDU agreement as presented.
And is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? I think we talked about this at the Cal meeting. All right, hearing no discussion. Mary Kay?
Bartle,
Yes.
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Moving along, consideration to approve Noboken School Forest epoxy flooring. Looking for a motion.
Move the board approve the quote from Mid-North for Noboken School Forest epoxy flooring for the amount of $13,050.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions on that? Any discussion? Any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, Mary Kay, roll call vote.
Borneman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Motion carries. Consideration to approve middle school epoxy flooring. Looking for a motion.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
I move the board approve the bid from Mid-North for middle school epoxy flooring in the amount of $49,850.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mary Kay, roll call vote, please.
Maddie Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Motion carries. Letter I, consideration to approve middle school brick repair. Looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the quote from Hilo Services for middle school brick repair in the amount of $40,140.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mary Kay, roll call vote.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Maddie Nelson,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. I'll have to turn the gavel over to Dr. Bardo for this next item, please.
Consideration to approve the insurance renewal board action. Letter J. Do I hear a motion?
I move the board approve the Aspire's health insurance plan options as presented, including increasing the deductible to $7,050 for single, $14,100 for family, requiring staff electing to take the benefit pay the equivalent of 13.5% of the freedom premium, or the equivalent of 8.15% of the signature premium. The district will also offer vision coverage with the employee responsible for 50% of the premium cost.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Having a motion and a second, any discussions?
Dave, if
Go
it's
ahead,
okay,
Tim.
what I'd like to do is normally we'd bring this to the April Committee of the Whole meeting, and we'd spend some time going over the plan. You've got a PowerPoint that kind of summarizes the plan, and I'd like to highlight a couple of items. The renewals actually came back last week, 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, so the night of the cow, we met until about 5:30 reviewing those options. So if we look at if you can open that packet up and just kind of follow along. It starts off with the opening slide. We work with Michelle Frolke with R&R Insurance, and she is an independent benefit consultant that we use. We have an insurance committee there that's listed, and the members of the committee are primarily we've got representatives from the support staff as well as teaching. We meet with Michelle, Melanie and I do probably almost every month, and up until February we were exploring options of self-insurance, but beginning in February, and these would be claims starting probably like late December, and in January, we had a significant uptick in utilization. And it became readily apparent that we were not going to be looking at self-insurance. And so Michelle went ahead and put the program out for bid. And what I'd like to do now at this time is to have go ahead and skip down to slide 9. And rather than get into the nitty-gritty of each plan option that we looked at, go to the options that the committee was settled at, and Melanie will share with you why we selected and are recommending Aspirus.
Okay, so we currently have WEA, and they came back as the most expensive carrier. United Healthcare, we kind of felt that as a committee that they were trying to buy us, and not that well. And Aspirus, we liked that it provided an option for employees, and I think the consensus of our committee was that they liked that also. So looking at Aspirus, there's a signature plan, and that's going to be limited on slide 10. You can see that we're limited to Aspirus facilities, to include WASB Surgery Center, Bone and Joint, Forefront, Dermatology, etc. So what is not in there is Marshfield Clinic. So for example, somebody who would want to keep going to Marshfield would have to select a Freedom plan. So a majority of our employees go to Aspirus, so it'll benefit a lot of our staff, and I think that is why our committee, we kind of decided it was best to give everybody the option. Tim?
So I'd like you to be on, right now, to be on slide 12. And this will give you the comparison of the WEA under our current plan, and then look at the two options under the Aspirus plans. And there you can see what we were paying for single and family coverage that's on a per monthly basis, and what the proposed new plans would be. One of the considerations that the committee, Michelle really brought it to our attention, is when we look at WEA Trust, they were not willing to give us a rate cap for next year. So they came back, and originally they had an 8% increase in their plan for the exact same program. They heard that Aspirus was bidding, and they adjusted their renewal to a 6.8%. But again, they weren't willing to give us any kind of a rate cap. When we looked at United Health, they were saying that they would, for a typical district, our utilization is probably going to be between 85 and 95% based of claims versus premiums paid. They were going to give us a rate increase of almost 20% for that for next year. So one of the things that's important, Michelle reiterated to us time and again that we need to look at how to get cost containment. So by looking at, if we have the majority of our staff currently using Aspirus and they stay in the Aspirus network, you know, Aspirus is the insurance company and they're also the service provider. Michelle's been telling us we'll likely receive better rates and better discounts. So our utilization of claims, you know, compared to premiums paid should be less. So I'm just saying if we get a 50-50 split, we have the potential for a $200,000 savings. So let's go to, if people don't have questions on that slide, let's go to the next one.
50-50 split between Freedom and
Yeah,
Signature.
between Freedom and Signature. Yeah. Correct, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
So now here's where the discrepancy comes from what I would recommend and what the committee and the admin team recommended. We need, in my opinion, we need to have a incentive to encourage people to contain costs. And we need to keep them in the Aspirus network, I believe, if we're going to contain costs. Historically, since that I've been with the district, when we had Act 10 and staff were required to pay a portion of the premium, that's when we went to that 12% number of paid premium. And as premium costs have gone up, we've maintained that share. Well, when we look at that WEA Trust submittal, the equivalent 12.5% would be that 4071 that you see in the 10359. I'm recommending as the incentive to shift people to the narrower network, that we incentivize, we charge them more for the freedom, and we charge them the equivalent rate if we would have stuck with WEA. And then we incentivize the signature plan and pay a little larger portion of that premium cost. So we drive those staff members that are comfortable with the Aspirus network to that plan. Otherwise, there's no incentive to switch to the narrow network, and we won't have much savings. And more importantly, down the road, we won't contain costs. So are people with me there?
Yes.
So let's move down one more slide.
What slide are we on, Tim?
Actually, just, you said it, that's where you and the committee had differed?
Yes. I wanted to go 15% on the premium, and nobody was with me. And the admin team thought that was too steep of a difference.
Okay. Thank you, sorry.
And the committee.
And the committee. Okay, and just moving right along. The other part that I'm recommending to also, we have the HRA account, and it's a shared district account. So when we say there's a $7,050 deductible, the district is sharing the majority of that cost. So the max out of pocket for participant, for a single, it's going to be $1,500, and for a family, it'll be $3,000. But we're going from a deductible, we're increasing the deductible by $1,000 for the family and $500 for a single. So then I looked at utilization, and we're contributing at 38.16%. Our current utilization is at 35.71%. We're taking on just an additional $200,000 in potential liability. And I'm suggesting we maintain costs. Year to date, we've built the account balance by over $32,000. And if we hold that, I'm anticipating that if we contain costs, we should have lower utilization of our own district plan. If, however, we don't, and we have the same rate of utilization as we have this year, we'll dig into that account balance by approximately $30,000, and that's what I'm showing. So questions there? I know it's a lot of information.
Is the rate of utilization this year being high? What is that like in previous years? I mean, is it significantly higher? Or just,
So I'll give you an example, Jill. We have 142 members on the plan that have not reached their out-of-pocket deductible. We have the folks that are utilizing the plan are going right through the HRA and into premiums paid by the insurance company. So essentially, a third of the folks are utilizing the HRA right now. And 2/3 have barely touched it.
Do we offer some sort of incentive if you choose not to take the insurance plan when you get employed?
We don't do cash in lieu, and I've looked at that. I've asked districts that have it. What tends to happen is your people that are sick are on your insurance plan, and your experience and your utilization of premium to paid to expenses, it's really out of whack, and your rates still continue to go up. And again, that's my opinion.
So Tim, just to clarify, because I'm a little confused right now.
Yep.
So the motion that was made and the one that is on the floor, that is the one that's come from committee.
That's correct.
So if we approve that, it's what the committee wants, it's what administration wants, and what you're talking to us about now is the different situation that you would like us, some of those numbers to change?
I'm absolutely comfortable with the numbers that I'm presenting tonight. So,
But does that, well, Julie said that, you know, she made a point of that, you know, this is what the committee wants, this is what the administration wants, and I'm just clarifying that the motion that's been made is what they're talking about. So
correct.
what you're talking about would be an amendment.
I am not, I'm giving you the details behind the motion.
With no amendment.
With no amendment.
So the only difference would be the freedom premium would be 15%, if what Tim had originally wanted was.
But I think we also have to look at, I'm hypothetically saying it's a 50-50 split. When you consider let's go back to,
It's like slide.
go back to slide 13. So when you look at that differential, you know, we're talking about $100, almost $100 a month, that if a family's comfortable with the network, we're saying they're going to save, I think that the actual number is about $950 a year by choosing the signature network. You know, and if we get more people moving over, we'll save more money.
And I understand that, and I guess my suggestion is that when you meet with our staff and explain to them that they're gonna save, you know, $900+ if they go signature instead of freedom.
Well, and
I would think that you'd get a significant amount of people that might change from Marshfield to Aspirus.
And we didn't go over the details. If you look at the map and you start, you look at the options, you know, folks can go to Orthopedic Associates, they can go to the Wausau Surgery, they can go to Bone and Joint. It's a pretty robust HMO. You can go to university hospitals. I mean, it's a pretty broad network. But if you have kids in Eau Claire, you know, they have to be able to get to one of those locations. If they're out of state, then there's, what's the name of the network, Melanie? Yeah, there's a broad network, First Health, that the kids would have access to if they're out of state. Individuals would too. They're also covered when they go to the emergency room out of network if they're in a different location.
Right.
But they have to be careful.
So what happens to somebody in the signature plan if their doctor recommends that they go to some specialist in Mayo?
If they go to Mayo in Rochester, they're okay. They can't go to Mayo in La Crosse. And then finally, just real briefly, there was a vision plan that we offered, a voluntary vision if people wanted vision coverage. Aspirus doesn't offer vision as part of their health plan. I'm suggesting we add the vision, have your appointment as part of your vision, and the district pay half of that cost. And the slide that shows it then would be, I think, the second from the last slide. And the monthly cost for that at current enrollment is just over $700, so it's not a very significant additional cost for us to do that. So then if we look at the last slide then, this would be our recommendation, that we increase the deductible, we require the additional pay, or the adjustment in pay, and then we offer Delta Vision at 50% coverage.
Okay, so the recommendation, if I'm understanding for the board members, is the final page 16 is basically what's the motion that's on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mary Kay?
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Do you have to leave the room if you excuse yourself? Could you just not participate in the conversation?
Technically, he could probably stay in the room, but it's better to walk out because there's always facial expression, so he's doing what he should do.
Yeah, they talked about that at my WASB
Leaving.
meeting
Yeah.
last
Leaving.
week. That you don't have to, but it's the best
It's just
option for
better.
yourself, to protect yourself.
And to be totally transparent, I just want the community to know that I personally do not receive any benefits for insurance or anything from the school district. My benefits come from my place of employment, which is great benefits, and they kicked my wife off because she works at a place that offers benefits. That's why she has to receive those from here. Just want to let that be open, so nobody thinks that I'm receiving anything from the district. I'm not. Okay, so we are on letter K.
You are correct.
Consideration to approve Start College Now students, Welding Academy, looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the Start College Now students as presented.
I second.
It's been motioned and stereo second. Mary Kay, pick whichever one.
I heard Kristen.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Does this need roll call? No?
Probably has to do with money, so.
Yeah, let's do roll call. Thank you.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. Letter L, report of employee resignations and retirements. Looking for a motion.
I move the board accept the retirements of Linda Dar, middle school housekeeper, and Lawrence Jasinski, high school custodian, and resignations of Alex Heine, middle school tech ed teacher, and Tyler Wigman, 8th grade ELA teacher.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Letter M, report of district new hires.
I move the board approve the following new hires: Allison Kanzila, health PE teacher, Hunter Kirsch, 4th grade teacher, and Heather Tannen, 5th grade teacher.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Mary Kay will do roll call.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Bordeman,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Matt Miller,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes. And letter N, report of donations. Looking for a motion.
I move the board to accept the following donations. $500 from Antigo Tater Trot for AHS Boys and Girls Cross Country. $250 from Baum Companies for AHS Boys and Girls Soccer. $500 from Antigo Dental Clinic for AHS Boys Soccer. $250 from George Shinners for AHS Girls Softball. $100 from the class of 1978 for AHS band uniforms and Rose Bowl trip. $5,000 from John E. McKenna for Clara R. McKenna Aquatic Center. $7,500 from Eugene McKenna for Clara R. McKenna Aquatic Center. $250 from Danny and Carlo Pyatt in honor of Alara Pyatt, class of 2018, for AHS band uniforms, and $250 from Danny and Carlo Pyatt in honor of Nathaniel Pyatt, class of 2023, for AHS band, for a total of $14,600.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? We thank all of the donors for what they have done. This is a very giving community, as has been said many, many times. All in favor of accepting these donations?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next meeting will be, it's not on here.
May
Mary
10th.
Kay? No, the next board meeting will be Tuesday, May the 24th,
Yes.
6 p.m. at the Media Tech Center in the high school. Everybody got that?
One more time? Media.
May the 24th, Media Tech Center.
But the next cow meeting.
The next CAL meeting is May 10th at the Media Tech Center, 6 o'clock in the high school.
There's gonna be a brief period where I drag to the wrong school, but I'll figure it out eventually.
Mary Kay will send us a notice to remind us where we're going, to keep us in line. All right? Motion to adjourn?
We just don't do it here.
So
We're done.
motion been made, second?
Second.
Motion made, second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, turn the lights off.
I do need to get some signatures